Now it's time to use what you know about underground water. Look at both spots on your part of the map. Answer question 1 for both spots. Now remember, your first clue is the land. Some spots are high in the mountains, some spots are down in the low areas. So think about how far down you'll have to dig for water at each spot.
You should have done this yesterday for the first two maps. So now today, go and do question 1 for the second two maps. So that should be EF and GH.
All right. All right, get one wanted a well sheet for your group to keep track of what you figure out. You're going to talk about where there might be water underground. If you're in a group, one person will be the recorder. Decide now who that person is and get one copy of the sheet.
This is in Google Classroom. You're going to need this sheet today.
If you're in a group, each person will take a turn telling the group how they answered question 1 for both spots on their map. Start with whoever has the Mystery Mountains map. How did you answer question 1? Explain why you think that. Now, recorder, your job on the wanted water sheet will be to cross off any spots where the group agrees that water is too far down to reach. Okay, go ahead and do this now for the Mystery Mountain map.
So since you're working alone, you're going to be looking at your two pages together independently. So look at your map, and if you think the water would be too far down, cross it off on your wanted a well sheet.
Now it's time to hear from the Thirsty Hills map. How did you answer question 1? Explain why you think that. Recorder, cross off any spots where the group agrees that water is too far down to reach.
Again, you're doing this independently. So look at your Thirsty Hills map, cross out anywhere where it would be too deep on your wanted a well sheet.
All right, 4 spots down, 4 to go. Time to hear from the Dusty Flats map. How did you answer question 1? Explain why you think that, and recorder, cross off any spots where the group agrees that water is too far down to reach. Time for the last 2 spots. Let's hear from the Sandy Canyon map. How did you answer question 1? Explain why you think that. Recorder, cross off any spots where the group agrees that water is too far down to reach. Now, just so you know, looking at the land gives you some ideas about where you don't want to dig for water. When you're done with this step, it'll be time for a new kind of clue, which you'll get in the next slide.
So pause the video here and make sure you have done all of this for step 1. You should have looked at the maps and decided where water's too deep and cross those letters off. When you're done with that, press play.
Your team leaves the inn to go buy supplies for your trip. On the way to the store, you meet a naturalist who's been traveling in the land beyond the mountains. She says, the best way to figure out where there's water is to look at the plants. Some plants have long roots that reach down to the water underground. Other plants rely on seasonal rainstorms. The naturalist tells you about what grows at each spot marked on your map. Get a copy of her list.
You can now find this in Google Classroom.
Look at what plants grow on your part of the map. Answer question 2 for both spots on your map.
Now you're going to have to go through this on each of the maps since you're working independently. So go through each of the maps and now do question 2 about the plants.
Taking turns, each person talk about your answer to question 2 with your team. Recorder, cross out any spots that you all agree will not be good for a well.
Again, now you're going to do this part independently. So go through question 2 on all of your maps and cross out anywhere where you think it would not work out to put a well.
The naturalist says goodbye. You're getting closer to an answer, but you still have one more clue to go. Your team enters the hardware store, where 2 miners are just back from a trip to the land beyond the mountains, and they're buying supplies. They see your map, and they ask where you're going. You explain, and one miner says, "To know where to dig, you need to know about the ground." The miners tell you about the rocks and soil at each spot marked on your map. Get a copy of their list.
All right, this is on that same document where you found your plants.
Look at the rocks and soil on your part of the map. Answer question 3 for both spots on your map.
So now go through question 3 on all 4 of the maps and do that same work.
Taking turns, each person talk about your answer to question 3 with your team. Recorder, cross out any spots that you all agree will not be good for a well.
When you are done with this part today and you've crossed out the spots for all of the parts over here, pause. Tomorrow is when you're going to synthesize this together and decide where to put your town.